Welcome to episode 2 of the podcast, and today we're going to be talking all about functional training and what it exactly means. As I think it's people have different interpretations of it, so we will get into that. But first, I know Andy's going to get an MRI done on his legs, and so when they do the what exactly are they looking for? Like, why do you need it before you get the?
So with me, it's to see, because you've got different types of knee surgery. You've got different types of knee replacement, full, partial. You've also got things where they can inject hyaluronic acid into your knee to sort of give some extra cushioning. So we look at how bad it is, final assessment.
Okay.
We're going to look at both my knees because both probably need. It's how my left one might, have a few years left in it.
Yeah.
Right one, I think, currently is giving up the ghost. It's, I barely can walk at the moment. So it's a case of them giving an MRI. When I spoke to the doctor, I told him about my history of my knees, and he was like, "Right, we better get you straight into an MRI." And but they were always concerned because they always go on about a bit young for a knee replacement because they only last 20 or 25 years before you have to do it again. Because what happens is there's two metal ends, titanium ends on each end of the bone, but in between we put a little plastic insert. So it rotates on the plastic insert. Now, it's that plastic insert that can, a bit like cartilage, can wear thin.
Yeah.
So every 25 years, you might have to replace the plastic insert. And then depending on what's happened to the metal, whether we replace that. And that revision surgery is a lot more traumatic, or can be if you have to replace the metal ends.
Yeah.
Because they've grown into the bone. Then, because what they do is they trim off the bone on mine.
Yeah.
So basically, the end of the bone, that little knobbly bit, just gets cut off and replaced with metal.
Wow.
And the bone grows into that.
It's serious, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a pretty major operation. It's not as like we used to cut a big cut down the centre of your leg, and what we do is push your kneecap out of the way. But now we do it actually a little less intrusively.
Yeah.
But we still move your kneecap out of the way.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending on how the back of your kneecap looks, you have to replace that with a bit of something. Plastic.
Wow.
So there's a lot going on. So it's just seeing what the problem is. But I think the right one's there. But there is 30-year plus ones now. They're not in common usage. But but we'll see.
Is that like the time considered if you're like, for you train, you walk?
Well, that's the thing. I'm going to be active, but also I'm not going to be I suppose I'm still relatively heavy compared to common folk.
Yeah.
But
not dangerously heavy, I guess. Yeah.
No, exactly. So it's catch-22. It depends. I'm not going to be running marathons or anything.
Yeah.
Although I joke about going back playing rugby, I won't be playing rugby.
No rugby, no bulking for you.
I probably won't do squats much anymore, but we'll see. The reality is it's going to be a 6-month rehab period.
Yeah.
You can't drive for 6 weeks after or anything because your legs kind of locked into almost straight position with a quick explain. You have to use like a walking frame for the first couple of weeks.
Wow, it's really serious.
If they do both legs at the same time, I'll be in a wheelchair, so we'll see.
Yeah, that would be. In a way, it's better that you're in the UK, like where you were here. That would have been really hard for you, like the no driving in particular.
Yeah, I was stuck on farm.
Yeah, you'd be. Well, it's not too bad, I guess, but
in
case of emergencies, I suppose like hip replacements are much easier, aren't they? Because
it's a very simple
joint. Whereas the knee, there's so much going on there. Gosh.
A lot of nerves as well in the knee.
Well, now there's also many. With time, there's so many machines for you, even the gym. I guess you don't even have to worry about that. You'll still be able to.
That'd be nice. I think once I get through rehab, I think I'll heal pretty much because these numbers tend to be based on elderly patients because the majority of people get their knees. So I might actually recover a lot sooner.
Yeah, I think that will be really interesting.
You're an active guy anyway, so we you've been training, so bone density is good, all that
Yeah.
muscle around. Yeah, you
Well,
might
that's the thing. My leg muscle's decent enough, so I'm hoping,
might be good research for them also, just
Yeah, you'd be a
something.
good case study.
Yeah, like
But this way, in 2003, or way back then, 20 years ago, a doctor looked at my knee and said he'd never seen, when I first done my knee and had surgery, when he was looking for it through an endoscope thing for doing the arthroscopy, he says he'd only ever seen a knee like mine in a 65-year-old patient. He's never seen one so bad in such a young person. And that was 20 year ago. So, it just shows you, That's when they told me never play any contact sport again, rugby. But I carried on playing rugby for years after that, so it's all good.
kind of shows you also how sports is it's no joke.
Well, yeah, but I think if you keep your legs strong for your actual quad muscles and things and hamstrings, actually you can get away with quite a lot of knee instability. I haven't had a cruciate ligament, anterior cruciate ligament in this right leg since 2023, and in the left leg since 2008.
Yeah,
Mhm.
comes down to I guess muscular strength, stability, joint mobility and recovery at the end. As a sports player. Yeah. If you're not, if anything's off there, then something might. I guess that's the difference between guys who play for a longer time, say like the LeBron James and McGregor guys who just take care of themselves differently.
Well, I guess it depends on the sports. Like tennis, I think your knees get a battering as well from all that lateral.
Generally, rugby, American football tends to be bad for knees. Rugby, sudden start-stop, sports squash, things like that.
Yeah, that's why guys like Roger Federer are, like amazing. They keep getting better as they age.
I imagine there's a genetic component. I always look at this. My dad had bad knees. I got bad knees. I imagine we just have weakened smaller joints or something. And some people also are just lucky with injury. Because it's only one little split second in any sport game where that knee is slightly offline or something, and your weight moves one way and your leg moves the other. Right, you mess it up. Reality is, you just don't. You could be lucky and that not happen.
Yeah, because there are many guys who are super amazing at their sport, but it's like every season you hear injury, no matter what they do. So I feel definitely genetics. You can fight it as much as you want, but big.
And I mean, often when you get an injury, like an ankle or one or something, it just kind of it's recurring. It's just gets weaker.
Yeah.
But it'll be great chatting with you afterwards and tracking your recovery and like what kind of physio you do.
Physio.
When you're live, reporting live from the operating room.
I'm interested in the physio part.
Yeah, the physio rehab.
I'm gonna go to physio, but I can't drive, so I'm just gonna have to keep getting people to drive me to physio. It's gonna be the first few weeks are gonna be annoying.
Yeah, just the rehab.
Frustrating.
Interesting.
You'll need functional training, Andy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Functional to walk.
Yeah. Well, I guess that segues us nicely into functional training and what it actually means, because I think it's bandied about so much on Instagram and social media. It really gets my go away, like, oh, functional workout, and the person doesn't even really know what that means. And I find like most functional sort of workouts that you see people doing on social media are like combination movements or like the kind of what you call it, like natural movement.
Even just
like everything, like CrossFit claims to be functional. F45, I think the FM 45 is functional.
Oh, I didn't actually
functional
that.
45 minutes, isn't
it? Let's have...
I think so. I think that's how it started.
Like, first things first, it's CrossFit. Well, functional training is not CrossFit. Like, let's just.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's the F stands for functional training, a mix of circuit and HIIT style workouts geared towards everyday movement.
For 45 minutes, is it?
But the thing is, when they're like kettlebell swings and things, everyday movements, this is like, which blows my mind. It's like when CrossFit claims, as you said, they started off claiming to be functional.
Yeah.
What, walking on your hands? Sounds like I do daily.
It's
That's the thing, none of it's functional.
It's so funny, isn't it? Like, and it's so seductive. People love that, when you say that, and it's, what's more functional is probably just a squat.
Yeah, walking.
Overhead
Most
press,
functional, yeah.
carry, things that mimic that will have carry.
This is like farmer's walk.
Yeah.
Potentially, that's like carrying your shopping in.
Yeah.
You know, box steps, because it's like walking upstairs.
Yeah, I think if we were to go into like what is functional for everyone, then you nitpick. You can't be like overhead snatches.
You can't. That's the thing. But those just aren't. Those are technical lifts as well.
Yeah.
And you like, day to day, people activity levels aren't that. Functional patterns are different to this functional training. I think understanding how we move and things like bending down to pick your kids up, trying to bend, a bit like when you do a squat, you're bending down and you're trying to think, knees moving forward, what's my ankle mobility like? And that's kind of a functional pattern of movement. It's like, I'm going to get down low as I can and lift up through my legs.
So it's like you said, it's with all training, it's like deadlifts are functional, but when you think about it, deadlifts, you hear, spine neutral, hips back, and it's like no one picks anything up like that. Spine is meant to.
Whoever deadlifts day to day in their real life, it's like, and this is the problem, when we do things in real life, our actual functionality is pretty poor because, I don't think like, deadlift is just like we don't do day to day in real life. It's like we lift things, but we don't set up properly, and it's not straight off the floor with two hands. It's like, it's a reality of what is functional and what isn't, starts becoming a bit blurred there because, yes, we lift things, but there's a pattern there that doesn't change. I think that's the important thing.
And I think
Movement of joints and everything else in spine.
And I think in terms exercise, well, it's social media and everything, and exercise doesn't have to be sort of functional in life for it to be effective. It could be used to improve a certain functionality, like we're just talking now with Andy's knee after surgery, the therapy or whatever exercise you do, they'll be functional in helping him come back to doing what he used to do before. But it doesn't mean just because a deadlift isn't functional in daily life, it won't help you do other daily movements, other daily things, because it's strengthening muscles you need on a daily. So I think it's functional has been abused and bastardized just to sell programs and mostly classes, and also mostly HIIT. I'm doing it in air quotes because you don't do HIIT for 45 or an hour, 45 minutes. That isn't really, that's just an aerobics class. But so
that's the thing, is like you take a movement and now we're speeding it up to fit into how many you can do in a minute before you change station. There's nothing functional about that. It's like racing in day-to-day life. It's like, even if you replaced it with exercises that were remotely like what we do day to day, it's still, you can't speed it up. It's like, it's like we're not rushing everywhere. We're not like, quick, I'm going to carry the shopping in like 10 seconds and go get another bag. And change stations, go to the kitchen, pick the laundry out of a washing machine. I've got 45 seconds.
I love those reels on Instagram. I think it's be the best you can be. They're so funny. It's like, it's amazing. I don't know what he calls it, but like, if you're being functional in real life, they're so funny.
If you apply your exercise.
And it's kind of like, deadlifting or to close the washing the dishwasher or something stupid like that.
Snatching your shopping bag.
People really take that too far, and I think what you guys have said is so interesting. I mean, like, and he's not going to be doing F45 after his knee replacement. That would be like the worst thing to do, and it's
the
just
main functionality is going to be walking.
Yeah.
And for so many people,
even a squat would be
you know,
functional for you.
that really is, and, you know, I guess you can look to different populations. Of course, it's going to be unique to certain people, on what is functional for you. And I mean, there was a great comment from Morag the other day on one of my reels. I was just saying that, you know, women are so scared to train during pregnancy, you know, yet they're lifting their toddlers, they're lifting their car seats, they're, you know, carrying all their shopping, but they're scared to pick up like a weight. Whereas, you know, for them, you know, training in a way, like your goals during pregnancy to be functional are quite specific. So it's a lot of like, you know, posterior chain strengthening, and just keeping that mid-back mobile, because of course your breasts are getting bigger, and like when you breastfeed, your posture can be pretty bad. So just, you know, a lot of opening of the chest and things like that. So it's, you know, again, like the sort of functionality there is going to be different to
It's like I get a lot of, I've had a lot, you know, at different times, new mums and actually new parents who struggle with back pain. And it's because they hadn't done the foundation work before the baby came, in the sense that, you know, if you got a good strong back, you've done, you know, you strengthened your back and things, bending down, pick up, you know, out of a crib, you know, a young baby, you know, and standing, holding a baby. That's almost, you know, what your functionality is now going to be for the majority of day to day. And, you know, just holding the baby, you know, we get sort of asymmetric backs. They always pick, especially if you've got toddlers. You know, you see it all the time. People scoop them up one-handed, without thinking actually about their body movement at a time. But it's always on the same side.
Yeah. And I mean, I went for a pelvic floor physio on Wednesday, and that was really interesting. I mean, no one does functional classes for the pelvic floor, yet that is
which is the most functional thing. Yeah,
it's massive. So again, you know, it's that would be quite funny. F45 for the pelvic floor.
Change stations. Do you Kegels? Move on to the next thing. Do you breathe in?
Yeah. We could sell that. If you wrote a program and called it like functional, you know.
Thing is, you got to release it in California.
Yeah.
If it makes it big in California, you can sell it around the world then.
But I think even right now, like you said, writing a program for like a real functional program, I don't think most people would. It would be hard, you know, farmers carries, walking every day, kind of.
I mean, it's the main movement patterns that we were talking about.
Yeah,
and
like
those are the most functional.
The thing is, it would be a boring class because you'd have to
that's what
start at the beginning to build in those movement patterns. Like you'd lose everyone on the first class because it's like first, now we're gonna just check our ankle mobility. You're gonna work 10, 15 minutes on ankle mobility, I mean, hip mobility.
Yeah.
And everyone went, oh, this is rubbish. I'm not losing weight here. I'm not sweating. My fat's not crying.
True.
It's so true. It's so funny because like we've been like talking with Kibu, you know, who do the blood work, or maybe helping them do like fitness events. Seminars. And we had to say, look, we're not doing your typical boot camp thing. That's just not who we are. Like, better we focus on foundational movement patterns and mobility. And you could just see them like,
like that's not
gonna be fun.
It's not sexy.
It's just not, is it? Like if you okay, if I was doing a typical like functional program, it would be all these complicated movements in it, wouldn't it? And like I said, the combination movements, more kind of plyometric stuff. And I was like, but it really isn't.
It's crazy how people would rather do a class where they're struggling to do advanced movements than do an actual, you know, let's call it basic foundational class where they're actually going to progress. And it might be boring in the beginning, you know, like even if it's just push-ups, holding the top of a push-up, an ISO or a negative, whereas compared to where we're doing half reps, looking like...
That's the thing, it's like, exactly. And the thing is, you know, you're sweating and it's but that's all well and good. I mean, go at it hard for weeks and be loving it because the endorphins are going. And suddenly we get an injury and they're out for weeks, and people then struggle to get back into exercise. And we've all had clients where they come in and said, "Oh, yeah, I was training, doing this, doing that, and I've had a bad back, and I've hurt this, hurt that, hurt my shoulder." And you're like, well, how are you doing it? I mean, when you see them actually send you a video of them, even using, say, a shoulder press machine, and you're like, why's your bum moving so far forward? Well, why are you hoiking it up on a slight twist, and all this sort of stuff, where it's all well and good going ham for, in a circuit class, and you will lose weight, calories burnt, great, but for optimal body composition, you're more likely to get injured before you get, it's obviously people that do it well and have like good natural movement, but then a lot of others of the general public just don't, because it's alien. When people start these classes day one, they go from doing nothing, sitting at home, it's January 1st, I'm going to run down to a new CrossFit centre and just sign up, or F45, or whatever functional training or circuit training, and
Yeah, and I find it sad. It's for a long time aerobics used to be, the classes guys did, and then now it's all this, functional stuff with heavier weights than most people can handle. When in real sense, if you wanted to sort of go into CrossFit, if you started with a nice aerobics class, you'd be better off, building the endurance there. You're just using your body weight. You're punching the air, you're moving, if that's what you like, instead of going into a class the first day, just because it's called functional and you're there already, snatching. And if you're building endurance, you're better off walking, doing a nice 30-minute aerobics class and just move around. And it's crazy how they've replaced the aerobics classes, which were actually helping people get into the gym and build up that gym endurance over a long time.
Yeah, I think there's functionality in sport as well, as in you can have functional training for a specific sport, as in Seb Kaya's BJJ coach, who I sometimes have trained with. He does circuits on the fly. He was trying to get me to do, and I was like, not with my knees. But they're purely for being better at BJJ. So there's a bit of grappling thrown in, but there's also some various movements that relate to BJJ, where you need your strength. But like in rugby, you can separate out for positions. Certain positions need to work on different functionality. That's true functional training for a specific sport, not functional training for day to day. I think there is a difference there, and I think that's great. Finding something and going, like, what do I need to do to be able to do this better? Is what functional training is about. And going, okay, so scrumming, I'm going to push this thing up and down, push this sled up and down. That is functional for practicing your scrumming and driving and stuff. Bending down, picking things up, like, weighted medicine balls, moving them, like, which is fine. But then people use it to be functional for every day. And every day, what are people doing? They're walking, they're looking, cleaning, looking after the house, going shopping.
Sitting.
What's sitting down a lot of the time? So what's functionality for sitting down? It's sort of, being, you're better off working on getting your desk at the right height and your chair at the right height, and things like that. And, work on a bit of wrist mobility for doing a couple. That's true functional, thing. It's like, long distance. What does a lorry driver functional? You go to a functional fitness class. It's like, well, it's not really functional for what you do day to day.
It's I mean, like, we get quite a few cyclists and runners, and it's like, well, a bit of strength training is so beneficial to that. And like for cyclists, because they're hunched over so much, you want to work on that. But I mean, the power is in the legs, and then depending what type of running you do, if it's long distance, if you're a sprinter, whatever, that's also going to play into it. And I mean, even with cardio, people, when they start, Leon, they're like, right, hill sprints, this, and this. I'm like, why don't you
I was
just
enjoying it.
I know you are,
Just
but
my body was
I
like,
think
dude.
people with cardio go into it too fast, and it's like, just spend time building that aerobic base and zone too fast. And like everything else we've talked about, like it's not sexy like hill sprints. You're not like dead at the session.
Walking on an incline. Yeah, you'll be right. And
yeah, just build up, and it can take time. Like people are so impatient.
I started with very little,
But the problem with you, Leon, is you're a bit like me. You know, you've been able to run a bit, or you've played sport.
Yeah,
You forget you've added a bit of extra size since then. You know?
there's a I guess it's like a, what do you call it? Like a line. You're like, no,
because I'm always
I
like,
can't be that bad.
Just go out and walk fast up the hill. You will be in zone 2, and it's like, comes back sweating, drenched, like, yeah. Next week, sick.
No, it was nice.
Yeah, next week.
Nice short sprint. I did nice walk and jog, and then did mobility and everything right. And then after 2 sessions, the body's like, dude, you're not ready.
That's why fartlecking's good, because you do the walk and you shorten. So you do a longer walk, short jog, and even short sprint. I mean, you change those percentages, so you actually shorten the walk and increase the jog, keep the sprint short. As you get fitter, you can extend.
I think that's such a great way to do it. But like zone 2 is actually should be really easy. Like you feel like you could do that forever and ever, and it really helps you build your base, because I think people just jump into that like zone 4, 3, 4, 5. You've with everything, you've got to start right at the beginning of those of the base of the patterns, whatever you're doing. And I mean, like with all the clients we get, we'll do a basic movement assessment. Even if it's online, we still get them to do videos, just so we can see, even if they're said they've been training before, because you sometimes pick up different things. Like I train a few personal trainers, and they actually really like sending in their videos, because having a fresh set of eyes. But just getting that initial pattern down, like you could be like, okay, well, this is what we need to actually work on for you, and then build up slowly on that. And it's like you said, Andy, it's boring if you're doing like 15 minutes of ankle mobilizations, but it's really going to pay off.
And it's just what you've said. I think that's the first step to finding out what is functional to you, how you move, how your joints move. Like that initial assessment that will define, even if you're trying to do CrossFit, bodybuilding, it's the same movements, but how your initial assessment, mobility, movement, how you move initially will determine how you progress the movements. And, if you use a barbell to start with, kettlebell and dumbbell, etc. So I think that's what people forget. We don't all move the same, even if we're doing the same class. Even if there's nothing wrong, you can enjoy your classes, everything, but remember, we don't all move the same. So, and
I think that's the problem with something like CrossFit, though. Everyone gets there, you got one instructor or whoever at the front showing you how to deadlift or how to squat, and then they want everyone to do it identically. Although everyone's got different lever lengths and everything else, and then they're getting you to do it quickly. So and that's where the problems start lying. Because it is a competition. With something like CrossFit, it's about getting PRs and beating everyone else around you and being up the leaderboard. And the reality is, that's pushing people to not take their time and go for it, but where their technique may not be the best. Where what we should be doing is very specifically, say we're talking about a squat, very specifically training a squat for their levers. Or a deadlift for their levers, and finding what works best for them. And it won't necessarily look the same as everyone else's.
Should probably throw calisthenics in there. I just thought about that. How I just remember I had this one client, and he was obsessed with, I guess it is that like natural movement with calisthenics, and how like a lot of these superheroes on TV train, it's the ultimate functional workout. And there is a lot of calisthenics in there, but it's like, how is it called the bear flag or you know, when they're like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
like, because I think a lot of calisthenics like as the ultimate
I
function.
think they're cool and they look good,
Yeah.
but they're not functional. Like day to day, you're not having to pull yourself up through high windows and stuff, and you're not vaulting over stuff day to day because you just aren't. You know, maybe if you were say, and you look at this like a mountain rescue type,
Mm.
um, firefighter or something where someone in the military where you've got to pull yourself, and that's where a lot of these calisthenics come from, military
Yeah.
training, where you low levels of equipment, so you do pull ups and press ups, and and it's about pulling yourself through windows and up onto roofs and things. But day to day, you don't need to turn yourself into a flag.
And I think
It's like we haven't got the flag, boys. Send them up.
Yeah.
that guys forget a lot of what you'll see on like Instagram. They're way advanced. Like,
Oh gosh.
someone doing a flag. It's probably he's been doing 1,000 push-ups for 15 years, and then he was able.
And it's done for entertainment as well. This is what people don't realize. He'll do it, and it may not be one take. It might have been his 10th take to get it perfectly, and then you get a photo and it looks good. But the reality is, it's just something he's been building up to over years, as you're right, Leon.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you see his training, it is like we say the foundational movements all through getting stronger, so he can do that for entertainment.
I did find that client really frustrating, like, because they would just get injured, and I'm like, you may want to do this, but for you it is not practical. For you, the basics, and basic doesn't mean easy, are the best thing to prevent injury. All these other calisthenics and cool superhero things look cool, but for you,
your body has
ain't functional at all. And it's just,
I was going to say, strongman training, parts of that, a sort of function of a bygone era, but the reality in that, even they do separate gym work to build a foundation before they do. So their training split into gym work and then what do they call it? Equipment work or event work, where they work on a specific event. So in one session they do maybe do some just gym work in their shoulders and stuff, and then in the second session they'll probably do say atlas stones or throwing something over. Well, that's the thing. So that'd be on a pool day. No, but we do split it a bit like that in the sense that they'll have the gym work for their ancillary muscles, and then they will do the event work. So we still do the basics, and then the event work on top.
I guess it works a bit like sports. If you're a rugby player, you need to play rugby. You need to go on the field.
That's what's functional.
The
actual gameplay is a functional bit, because the gym's there to build your foundation of your core strength. It is like what muscles am I using most? Let's work on strengthening those core, especially the core in rugby. Strong back, strong stomach. Being able to turn, move quickly. So and then legs and things to give you a base foundation. But as I tell young guys, because I was given this advice by a guy called Zinzan Brook, who used to be captain in New Zealand when I played with him. He always said people are too in a rush to go to the gym without working on the basics.
I was going to say
and his basics were like passing off either hand, all the basic movements in rugby, the skills before the gym. That's his motto, and that's why he played number 8, but he kicked a drop goal from the 22, the 50-meter line in the game, and not many number 8s have ever done that. That's because he had worked on his basics.
Yeah. I guess that's where like in the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off.
Basics.
It really is.
The gym's no different, and so we talk about the gym. It's no different. What are the basics? Everyone's watched Karate Kid and wax in the car, wax on, wax off, painting the fence.
It's boring.
boring, and he was bored in it. But when they came to that fight, and he was doing, he's like, oh yeah, I get it now, I get it. But and the same in the gym. When you get there and you start working on ankle mobility, hip mobility, thinking about I work on, I have done on my ankle mobility just from sitting down on the sofa occasionally, working out instead of just getting up mindlessly thinking, right, if I bring my ankles in towards the sofa, step my knees forward, how far can I get up and just step up? It's just, go on.
No, I was going to say sometimes, well, I guess we do blame coaches a lot sometimes because we are the ones who are supposed to guide you, but also sometimes it's the clients who are too quick, or just guys in the gym who want to skip the basics because, well, like we say, they're a bit boring. And I think it would help also if most coaches were like, you know what, like, no, like this is it. These are the steps you take, and instead of trying to sound flashy and make you sweat, and I think that's where the whole functional mess has just come in, and it's quick to make things look cool, so you can sweat and be like, oh yeah, I was doing 1,000 kettlebell swings and jumping on a box, crawling, and it's
box jumps.
Box jumps. I think
and also how you program your week. How we always talk about like having some cardio in. I would say is very functional, but also you don't need to be training every day kind of thing. I mean, just all the things we always talk about. And I mean, if you're trying to build yourself, just like if you're not playing sport or anything like that, like the main movement patterns is your squat, your hinge, is it lunge, carry, and like an overhead push and pull. You program those in, however it works for your split, and have some cardio, build on your base first.
I think those six movements work.
Exactly, functional program.
Yeah, they work for every sport.
You start there. I mean, you can build from there, and that's the point. That's what people don't realize. It's building blocks. You start with a solid foundation.
Yeah.
When you build towards more complicated stuff, and we've all had clients where you do a program, say, oh, we've done a lot of these exercises before. And I always go, well, yeah, there's a reason for that.
And they'll always be there.
Exactly. They're not changing. I might change the order or the rep range or, the cadence. But the reality is, there's certain exercises that work nicely based on your level.
Yeah.
There's no need to complicate things.
There's a coach I follow on IG, and he asked a very good question. And I even asked myself that question. He was like, you have training and you have your thousands and thousands of exercises, but everyone is going to have a set of 10 to 15 you're going to do your whole life. So he was asking a good question. He's like, you found exercises that work, that move well with your body. Who said you have to keep changing them every year or every rotation?
Yeah.
Like, these work. And you have your certain movement with 3 variations you can change. Your squat, maybe you're good with your goblet, hack squat.
Yeah, exactly.
Who said you have to change and start doing others? Like, there's no rule where a program needs to change every.
But I think like a lot of coaches are scared they'll lose clients if they don't change it.
They want to make it exciting, you do, and some people need that excitement. I'm more like a Dorian Yates. I would just do the same exercise day in, day out for years on end, just progress the same ones, and I'll be happy with that. Yeah. Some people, though, like to have variation. They're in the gym with all this fancy equipment. They want to, at some point, try it all out, and and I'm not against that as long as they got the basics in first.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
With a realistic notion that it's not necessarily going to make you better using a new piece of equipment, because you got to start from the ground again. Unlike once you've been using a piece of equipment, it's like you're already now quite strong with this piece of equipment. You can keep adding.
And also,
you just get stronger.
And I guess in your arsenal of exercises, you're not doing all of them in a session. So you still have quite a bit of exercises to rotate around. So
that's the thing. Too many people throw everything into and the kitchen sink into their sessions.
Yeah.
We have like 2-hour long sessions and stuff. Yeah.
You're doing every imaginable machine.
Not one, but a movement pattern that people do neglect is like lateral. Because so much is just up and down, up and down, up and down. I think more people could add in some side to side and a bit of rotational in there as well.
Rotational's the one I think's forgotten a lot, and things like there's nothing better than teaching someone just that basic twisting motion and then progressing it maybe to Russian twists or to wood chops and stuff. But just starting with just actually rotating your torso, not just your shoulders turn, and because a lot of people don't realize they have a lack of mobility in their rotational part of their spine, their lower spine, their hips, everything moves. You just turn around on the spot, and you're like, let's try and keep your feet there, your body there, and and then start moving your torso right round.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's where it could be functional if you have kids. Add some throwing into your exercises, and make it fun for you.
Throwing kids.
Yeah, throwing stuff with the kids. Don't throw the kids.
Whatever you do, don't throw the kids.
Throw stuff with them.
At them, what?
But no, like throwing the ball.
Yeah, throw toys about.
You do hear a lot of like even I guess social media you see a lot, and you hear dads, just talking about how swinging a bat and something cold, and it's
this brings down the whole problem of like people not having foundational movement. Like the amount of time people get injured moving furniture in the house, moving a washing machine, moving the bed, whatever it may be, that's when they get injured because they haven't got that core foundation of movement, but also haven't strengthened their core.
Yeah.
A lot of back injuries are caused by weak cores or asymmetrical, core muscles, which then cause the spine to misalign, and then you get bulging and vertebrae movement and disc movement.
I guess that's why even you find, say, anyone who's started bodybuilding or just training straight without having a history of sports, there's a bit of lack of rotational because bodybuilders just don't work on any sort of lateral rotation.
There's no mobility in the joints.
And
if you go straight from nothing to bodybuilding,
it's not functional to bodybuilders, so it can be forgotten. And
I mean, I would just say that never be afraid to go back to building the foundation, no matter how advanced you think you are.
Yeah.
I like just taking the example of like the pelvic floor work. I thought I had pretty good control, but then the physio is showing me like this movement where it's like an elevator. So it's really full pelvic floor control. So you think of engaging your pelvic floor. I tried to get Leon to do this, but he would. So it's like you're engaging it, which is a Kegel, but like an elevator. So you're going up to floor 1 and then floor 2, and then relax down and down. And it's so hard. And I just think, never be scared to go back to the basic movement pattern. Sometimes I did that. Like when I hurt my back deadlifting, just went back to, because often it is a flaw in how you move in your technique. And, if you just think, oh, well, I've been doing this for years, it's always worked. It's like, well, therein could be the problem.
Yeah, time to
and
change.
You need to just go back to the, reduce the weight, film yourself, or work with someone else who could, a fresh pair of eyes on how you move and adjust it, because, like Leon said, everyone deadlifts differently. And I mean, we've talked on it here before, how like we each favor a certain type of deadlift that works better for us. And, you can have, there's infinite ways to do things like placement. Like we've worked with a physio who, had us have like our feet slightly, I don't know how you offset. That's the word, offset position. So it's always, don't be scared to go back, and because you come back stronger. And
I've done it at different times, and I think we all have. You just strip it all back. I've done it with my squats at different times, where I'm like, am I squatting for strength, or am I squatting for muscle engagement? And I stripped it back to really focus more on getting muscles activated and not lifting my back
Yes.
essentially. And same with deadlifts, and finding what works better. And this, it's no problem going into a gym and taking all the weights off and starting just with a bar again.
Yeah. Yeah.
People think they're going to be judged, and no one cares. Honestly, no one. As I say this to loads of people, everyone's so busy in their own world in the gym. No one's probably even looking at you, unless you're training in weird little hot pants and look like you're training in your underwear. No one's looking at you.
That's so true.
No, it's crazy because thinking even like Andy said, for a long time I didn't want to reduce my squat because I like doing heavy squats, and I thought, yeah, I'm the man at gym doing.
Exactly.
And then, well, after a while, I guess you can say you grow differently, you mature, goals change, and I wanted to improve my squat, and now I feel like I do squat. I feel the muscle better. I squat better, but not as heavy as I used to. And it's the same thing. I get guys who squat heavier to do the same, sort of technique. And later it's like, I thought I was strong. And it's like, yeah, you're strong when you do it like that. But if you do it, if you improve on your technique and engage the muscle differently, you realize you don't need 5 plates, unless you're trying to be a powerlifter or strongman, and that's
going to be one thing enjoyable about once I have my knee surgery is actually on a lot of exercises I'm going to have to relearn them.
Yeah.
To see how it feels with my knee, start at the beginning, and it might feel wonderful, and just build up slowly into it again, and it might be great, because I'm just going to strip it all back. Things like, I will train some squats initially, see how it feels. If it doesn't feel good, I'll stop doing it. But the fact is, start with just the bar.
Yeah, you're going back to the basics.
Start. Same with deadlifting. Start with just the bar.
Yeah.
See how the knee mobility is improved, because that's my main downfall at the moment. I don't have a lot of knee flexion. And then combine that with working on the ankle mobility, having that, so I get to start all over again on a lot of those lifts.
That would be fun, and new dome for you. Like you're sitting down and your body goes like, whoa.
Yeah, never
what
see
is
it.
this?
You see it as like a failure or a regression.
Progress.
It is progress. And I think if you have had an injury before, your body compensates. So again, it's like if you are working with a physio, or you're coming back from an injury, it's so easy to fall back into those old habits of how you used to move. So yeah, it's really worth working with someone who can help you on that.
I think people rush back to try and get back to where they were, just jump straight in.
Yeah,
learn from the injuries. Otherwise, those injuries are learning. Don't, also, as you're going to the physio, don't look at it as, it's the physio's job and you're just waiting to get better. Learn from that injury and take notes. It comes in handy. So even if it happens again, if happens to someone like you get smarter with every sort of impingement or injury, and you learn more about how you move, how you recover, I guess, also. So yeah, you learn from it. Yeah, because I know, like, when I had the SI issue, I was feeling like this was done. I couldn't train the way I wanted to, and it messed up with my head. And the moment I changed that and started learning from it, it felt different. I was relearning, and I understood, what had happened and how to fix it. So don't look at an injury as a setback. Just use it to learn, and don't let it get to your head too much. Especially, I know for guys who are into sports and are trying to make it into a career or something, it can mess with your head big time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So I guess to sum up, like, functional is so unique to you.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't need to be complicated. I think that's what people really think. It needs to be, that functional equals complex, but it really is, as we always go on about, just the basics and just starting slow. And I know how it's like you want to get from here to there ASAP, but just really taking your time. And I must say, that's what the great thing about being pregnant, because you kind of have a smaller range of exercises that you can do. So like I post when I train, I post it, and it's like the same every single week. And I'm like, oh well, and I still post it even if people have seen it, just to show that you generally do the same thing. And for some, you have to go back to basics. And I'll just say again, like, basic does not mean easy.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't. It is not the easy way out either. Always build that strong foundation. And yeah, I can't remember who it was, but who did break down some CrossFit movements to be a bit sort of less complex. I thought those were quite fun. But again, like understanding, like different types of training. I can't remember what episode that was. It is helpful as well. Like if you're doing metabolic, if you're doing strength, if you're, working more for hypertrophy, like just understanding those are useful too. But again, like, don't complicate it. Stick to those basic movement patterns we talked about, and work with a physio, work with a coach, film yourself. That is so good. In fact, that's why I like filming myself for Instagram, because you're like, ooh, I thought I was I thought I was doing that differently.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Sometimes I video myself and gone, I'm not posting that. That's horrendous.
Oh, yeah.
I redo that.
Or when you thought you're doing like a slow eccentric and you're like, okay, that was not like 4 seconds.
Or pauses at the bottom where you're like, that wasn't really a pause. It felt like a pause in the moment, but actually that's not a pause at all.
So I think really film yourself. Like, don't be scared to do it. Because I get my clients to film themselves for me, but I'm like, film yourself for you as well. Like it's such a useful thing to do. And you don't need a fancy tripod. I just prop mine up against the
Exactly.
We'll get someone to film you. It's really easy.
Yeah.
And don't be seduced by functional training programs. Like, just read them through and
understand what they are. Like, if it's just a bit of fun, you want to run around, do it.
Yeah.
Don't try and make sure you're lifting correctly. There's easier things to do for that. As Leon said, just join an aerobics class. If you just want to get a sweat, if you want to build muscle, then it's still not the thing for you. Unless you're going from nothing. But the reality is, you can work on your movements, then join those classes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I think that's a good place to end that. And I hope everyone has a great functional day.
Walk.
Yeah. I will see you in the next episode. Yeah.